I know on the newspaper that it says, like, he was shot several times in the head, and then the crease in the newspaper is right in his head. So I think that's kind of ironic and kind of a little morbid. But I really like that newspaper a lot. And then, the U.S. orbits with Glenn.
Glenn.
I don't know who that is. I feel so, like, behind because I genuinely don't know who Glenn is.
I don't know.
It must be his last name.
Some astronaut?
It's a 3-round victory in space. I don't know. It's really cool to see how old newspapers were set up. Because on one of them, on the Kennedy one, it just says, for weather, it just says cold. On the top left corner, it just says cold.
It's cold. Deal with it.
It's pretty funny. I like them a lot.
My mom had a decoration, like a theme to our bathroom in my house, and it was Titanic. So there was like newspapers of like Titanic sinking, and then
oh my gosh,
it had like color scheme of like ocean. And,
that's really funny, actually. I like the bathrooms that everything is like shells and fish, and there's just like the, I don't know. Have you know the wallpaper that's just like a piece? It's like a strip that goes around the hole, and then it's like maybe one color on the bottom and a different color on the top.
Yeah.
And just has like little fish on the strip.
Oh, okay.
And then there's like little seashells everywhere and a little bowl of seashells on top of the toilet, and they like smell like cinnamon or something, like seashell potpourri. I never had a bathroom like that.
Yeah, I don't have a bathroom theme right now.
Mine doesn't either. I don't really want a theme either.
They do have a bathroom guest book though that people can sign.
In the bathroom?
Yeah.
But just like I peed in this toilet.
Yeah, and it's like draw an image and like what song best fits the mood of your bathroom visit.
That's funny. We have a little book that is like 200 some writing prompts or something. We're having our friends fill it out. And it's kind of like the one at work. Yeah. But it's really fun. And one of the ones our friend came over the other day, and it was like, describe how you're feeling as you're like falling into a bottomless pit. And it was like, describe how you feel before you fall in, and just like, wow, that's really deep. I wonder how deep that is. And then the rest of it was just for the whole like all the last page. 3 stages. It was funny. It's good stuff. Did
you ever watch Spy Kids 2? Or any of them?
I definitely watched at least one of them. Yeah.
Was it the one where they went to an island?
Yes.
That's Spy Kids 2.
Okay, I like that one.
Do you remember the part where they fall down like the volcano?
Oh, yes.
And they're falling forever because it's like artificial.
And they're like that, laying in the air.
That's what I was thinking of.
That's fun. Yeah, I really like Spy Kids. I feel like it holds up. Like, it's a good movie.
Definitely holds up better than Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen the sequel?
No, I didn't know there was a sequel.
That's good. You should continue to not know there was a sequel. Yeah, it's Shark Boy and Lava Girl are adults, and it's about like their kids.
So Shark Man and Lava Woman.
No, they're still called Shark Boy and Lava Girl even though they're adults. And it's even more cringy than
there's sometimes Casey and I will watch like 10 to 15 minutes of the worst thing we can find on Netflix or like Hulu or whatever. And we found something called, I think it was called Mighty Kids. And the like thumbnail was like this little girl like flexing, and I picked that one because I thought it looked funny.
Mighty Kids, is that the name of it? No.
Yes, I think it is, because I watched it, and it's about the child of, or like some of the kids of like Shark Boy and Lava Girl and like superheroes.
That's totally it.
I started watching it, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever watched. It
was right. So you've seen some of it.
Yeah. Well, I fast forwarded, and I went to the part where the one kid with the long neck was just like stretching it around, and I was like, this is disgusting. Like, this is gross. I don't get it. Like. Yeah. It's not even a power. You can stretch your neck? Like, what? That's not a power.
Yeah, I think he uses it for some,
stretching his neck.
Perfect moment for like, we need someone to stretch their neck. That's the only solution to our predicament.
It's just, I didn't love it.
Have you seen Sky High?
It sounds familiar, but I have not seen it, I don't think. Okay. Is it about like a bunch of superhero kids?
Yeah, it wasn't a terrible movie though. It's actually an awesome movie.
Mm-hmm.
With, what's the girl? Have you seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World?
Yes, yeah.
The girl who plays Ramona Flowers is.
I really like her.
In Spy Kids, and yeah,
she's in Spy Kids.
Not Spy Kids.
Sky High.
Sky High.
Okay.
Similar sounding names.
I was like, damn, she's in Spy Kids too.
Yeah. When I gotta move this, it's not pointed enough. This tape.
Do you need like something to prop up the back of the microphone?
That might be a good idea.
I was gonna give you these wood slices that I just have. Does that work?
Yeah, I think it's good.
This is actually, they're slices from the first tree I ever cut down.
How many trees have you cut down?
A lot. Because really? I used to be an arborist.
You were an arborist?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've told you that, I think.
I thought... Okay.
Did you think that arborist was something else?
I thought maybe you were something else that wasn't an arborist. I thought you were...
I was a lot of things that weren't an arborist. Yeah. So that's true.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I forgot that one.
That's okay. I've done a lot of things. Also, I feel like I was like an arborist in training, not an actual certified... I wasn't a certified arborist because you have to go through some tests and rigmarole to get that title.
Oh, okay.
But they still let me chop stuff down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I chopped a few trees down. I had to for working in like the parks department of a government county.
Of a government.
Yes.
Of a government. My friend worked for the parks too here in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't do Milwaukee, but it was pretty good. Well, anyway, let's begin the
actual
podcasting.
Podcast. Let me just he's staring at me through the crack. Okay.
Welcome to the Regular People Podcast. I'm Wade Allen, and today I'm joined by Quinn.
Hello.
Hi, Quinn. So, I think we're planning on talking about plants and fear, maybe?
Yes, lots of fear.
And some other things.
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, topics that we're interested in.
Yes.
But before we begin, I'd like the listeners to know a little bit about you. Mm-hmm. So, who were you, let's say 5 years ago, and who are you now?
5 years ago was 2016, and I was in a very, very difficult relationship that was kind of forcing me to be someone that I'm not really, and I was really shy and really quiet and really I don't know, I really just let a lot of things just happen around me without actually being involved in them, basically. I had just gotten my dog, though. My dog, Zazie, so that's good. 5 years ago, someone very close to me died, and I was really, really depressed, probably the most depressed I've ever been in my life, which is why I got my dog. But I was just a mess. I was a real mess 5 years ago, truly. And
was it mostly because of the death, or
it was
a combination? It
was definitely, the death was a big part of it, but also the relationship I was in was very suffocating, and it really pushed me. It kind of crushed me, kind of pushed me into this little mold that I wasn't supposed to fit in. That's kind of what it felt like. But it's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
That was your childhood best friend that died, right?
It was, she was my best friend in high school.
Not childhood, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess high school is part of your childhood in a way.
Yeah. And that's still a really important time. Yes. And I had a really, a very difficult high school experience, too. So, one of the few people that I was really close with. Yeah, so that happened. And then I had a really hard time with that. And as time went on, I honestly only recently started feeling better. But during that time, the person I was with made me feel really bad for grieving. And made me, literally, I was it was maybe a couple months after this happened. I was still very sad because I had known this person for years and years, and I was really close with them. And they, asked me why I was still sad and why I hadn't gotten over it yet. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what they said to me. And I was like, I can't. Yeah. This is something I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life, probably. And, I can't just get over it. That's not how this works. So eventually that relationship ended within the last 5 years, which is good, but also still difficult because, we were really close friends and we'd known each other since we were, I was 16 when we met. So that's 10 years ago. You're talking about the person you broke up with?
Yeah. We were actually engaged, and I realized during that time that it wasn't something I wanted to, follow through with, and I moved on from that. And that was good. And as soon as that happened, my friends and family started saying, wow, you're acting like yourself again. You seem so much happier, and you're just different. You look different. You're acting different. Your eyes are brighter. You just look better. You look like you're doing better. And I was like, I am. But also, this is also really hard. It's hard to break up with someone, even if it's an abusive relationship, when you've been together for 6 years. So that was a big moment in my life. After that happened, I feel like I really came into who I am going to be in the future and who I am now. And I've just been working on myself a lot and addressing some things that I, maybe reactions that I have or things that I just do habitually that maybe I shouldn't be doing, or why I am the way I am, or whatever it is. Just been doing a lot of looking at myself from a hopefully objective point of view.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work.
So, what type of things are you interested in?
Oh, I love plants.
Plants.
As you know, I have 2 dogs that I love to death. I have a great partner now. I've been doing I've always been interested in painting. And so I used to paint a lot when I was younger. And then I stopped for a long time. And then I've gotten back into it, and that's been really nice. And then I've been doing like cross stitch, like embroidering things.
Oh, okay.
Which has been nice because it's kind of, I don't know. I've let go of the notion of like having to be good at things to do them. I just like kind of want to, so I just do now. Like I'm not good at embroidering things, but I'm like, I think I will embroider a strawberry today. And it's very nice. Like, it's cute and it's like freeing. And sometimes I try to make something and it looks nothing like it, but I spent a few hours on it and I learned some things about that specific thing. And
yeah, that's a good mindset to have, because if you go into it like wanting to be good, or else you're not going to do it, it just prohibits you from doing so many things that you might actually enjoy.
I have struggled with like trying to be perfect for a long time, and that's another thing that like I let go after I like moved on from that person that I was with, because they kind of made me feel like I had to be perfect. And so I stopped trying to be perfect, and I'm just doing things that I want to do, and if I'm not good at them, it's fine, because no one's good at everything, and I also suck at a lot of things, and I'm just like fine with that. And I'd rather do them and like just enjoy them than just not do them at all, because I just feel like that's a waste.
Yeah, I used to be really into drawing, and to some extent I still am, but when I was a kid I thought I was like such a great drawer compared to like the rest of my friends, and I was always proud of my work. And then as I got older, in like high school, there was like drawing and painting classes that are like lots of people were taking, and I decided not to take them. So then like my drawing level got worse than my friends.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I kind of stopped, and I had other things that I was doing. But right now I'm in a like understanding art class, and every like week we have to do a drawing. I don't know, it's not like harshly graded or anything. We're not expected to be good, but we just have to dedicate like an hour to drawing an image. And I drew like a self-portrait kind of just of my face.
Yeah.
And it's not good, but it's sitting on my kitchen table, and kind of every day I just see it sitting there, and I've grown to like it more and more. It's like, I know that it's not like objectively like a great piece of artwork, but even though that's the case, I still like it, and I still liked making it.
Right.
I don't know. You can enjoy things even though you're not perfect or even good at them.
Yes. You did show me that picture of the shoe you drew, though.
Oh, yeah.
And that was good. Objectively good.
That one was, it was better looking than
it looked
when
like,
I drew my face.
It looked like when people in like elementary school would trace something, and then they'd say that they drew it. And I'd be like, no, you traced that for sure. Like, you definitely traced that. But it looks good. It looks like a shoe. The proportions are good.
That's good.
It's good.
I think I showed you one other one that was of a guy just eating a cow,
with
like
lots
carcass,
of blood
with a fork and knife.
Yeah,
he's happy about it.
That one was it was good. It was good. It was well, I mean, it's like images like that, it's like it's sad, so
yeah. Driving here, I was kind of reminded of that, and I was saddened too, because I was driving and I heard this weird noise like a goat. So I looked around, and it wasn't the goat, but there was one of those trucks with the attachment on the back with the like
the metal
metal like cage for horses and cows in it.
Yeah.
And there was a cow, and I could just see its like head peeking out with its eyes.
Every time I see that, I actually cry when I'm driving. Yeah, like I just start crying. I also want to like crash into them.
Yeah. It was like really, there's a lot of traffic, so we were come to a complete stop, and I was like, we're just parked right now. I could just get out of my car and like
open
free it.
Yeah.
But then I noticed there's a lock. I was like, I don't have a hammer, but I'd like to really just go out there and smash it open and just like let the cow go.
I've thought about that too a lot. But then whenever I think about that, like, I would love to just smash into this truck to let this animal free. I'm like, well, I might die. The guy might die. The animal might die. We're on the highway, so someone could just run the animal over. Like, as much as in an ideal world, I could just let it free. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely get sad every time I see it.
But then I wonder though, like, I mean, provided you don't die and all that,
if you like get out of your car and like open the door and let the cow go out, and it actually does go out, and it might die on the freeway, but it's got a chance of survival.
It has a chance.
Whereas where it's going right now, it doesn't have a chance.
Yeah. I also imagine when you free like an animal out of, it's someone's in the car.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna like come out with a shotgun and be like, "You took my cow," and just like shoot at you or something. I don't know.
Yeah. The guy probably wouldn't be very happy about it.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Unless acted like a crazy person. I think that's really how you like win encounters. You just act completely insane.
I've thought about that a lot. That, when we touch on the fear subject, I've thought about that a lot. If I'm like walking somewhere and someone tries to like take me or like hurt me, I'm just like, I'm gonna act like a absolutely crazy. Like I'm just
scream at them.
Yes.
And flail
like,
and act like
pee
an
my
animal.
pants and just start speaking in tongues and just like go for it, because I feel like they'll be like, oh, I don't want this crazy person.
Yeah, you gotta like create a doubt in their mind, like, are they like a demon? Like,
are they possessed?
Yeah,
I would love to have someone think that about me. If like they were trying to steal me, like they think I'm possessed and they just release me, like, oh, I don't want this one.
Yeah,
that would be the goal.
So you touched on your 5-year history there, and you're into plants.
Oh yeah.
How did you get into that though?
It's difficult for me to pinpoint exactly when the fascination began, but I do remember when I was really young, like we had a garden in the backyard. Everyone says this, we had a garden and my mom and I would garden and stuff. But what I remember from the garden is just eating cucumbers and being like really happy to eat these cucumbers because they were like mini cucumbers.
Oh yeah.
And I would my friends would come over and I would just be like, would you like to eat some cucumbers? And like we'd go pick cucumbers and they were like, why are we doing this? And I'd be like, isn't this cool? Like cucumbers, they're there. But like apart from that, maybe a few years later, sometimes I would get to take some summer classes. And there was this one when I was in elementary school that was called I think it was called nature, or like nature is like cool or something like that. And we were like doing a tour through the woods, and the tour guide stopped and they grabbed some, I remember this very vividly. They stopped and grabbed some like sumac berries or sumac seeds, which is just like this native plant. It's like got a really distinct like red bundle of seeds after it's like fruited and everything in the fall, and they're really fuzzy, and they took them and they like rubbed them in their hand and they were like, you can eat these, like they're called sumac, like like two names, Sue and Mac. And I like ate one and it was tart and it was like really crunchy, and I was like, this is amazing, like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I just was like, I don't know, I was so excited about that. And then just like my name, I don't know, I was thinking when I was younger, I was like, my name, I have a name, and like this plant has a name. And I just felt some sort of like kinship with that because, I don't know, I guess because they broke it down like Sue and Mac, I was like, that's a person's name. And I've like never forgotten that plant, and I love that plant. That's like the most monumental thing I can think of that's really like ignited that interest. It goes farther too. It just goes on and on after that.
Nice. So. Yeah, kind of like personifies the plant, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've just always been very interested in the names of things anyway with plants. Like where do they come from? What do they mean? Because they're very indicative of like what they are and what they do a lot of the time. Like there is one that I think is funny. When I was in school, like after high school, one of my teachers was talking about a plant that's commonly known as buckthorn, and the berries when the birds eat the berries, they just like can't stop shitting basically. They're like a laxative, and the Latin name is Rhamnus cathartica, and like cathartica is like catharsis, and it's like comes from that, kind of comes from that word. And then I was looking at all these like natural supplements the other day, and one of them said like promotes digestion and like regularity, and I was like reading the ingredients and it said like Rhamnus. It was another Rhamnus species. But
different though.
But it was like the same thing, and it was just interesting to think that that's what it's doing. Like you're just a bird, like eating these berries essentially, and it's like the same thing happening. It's funny to know they're in the same family and they have the same effects.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, it's strange that someone would take that, but it's like almost poisonous. But whatever.
Oh, it's okay.
It's not.
Is that why your body has that reaction to it?
It's not like poisonous, like you're gonna die, but you're having an adverse reaction. You're trying to get it out of your body. So it's ironic that they're like putting it in as a natural laxative type thing to like just.
Is that not how other natural laxatives are?
I mean...
Or are they all just kind of like...
Well...
Your body's reacting because it doesn't want it in there?
I think, like, you know, as far as if you're, like, drinking peppermint tea, it's, like, soothing. You know, soothing to your stomach.
Laxative?
It's not a laxative, but it's, like, good for your digestion, from what I understand. And it, like, makes your stomach feel better a lot of the time. At least whenever I take it, if I have a stomach ache. But, like, I think there's a difference between, like, soothing and maybe, like, you know, relaxing your body. And then, like... forcibly taking these berries and just like shitting like I know I don't know, I feel like there's just a big difference in those two, like taking some chamomile and just like drinking it, otherwise taking like actual laxatives, probably not very good.
Right.
I just don't know how much I trust that, given on what I know about the berries.
I've got a few stories about laxatives.
Oh boy.
Oh, Ricola, that's the brand of cough drops. When I was like in high school, I was sick and I had a sore throat, so I was just sucking on Ricola cough drops all day long. And they're like natural ingredients or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't realize that those natural ingredients actually included natural laxatives. I don't know specific like what it was specifically, but I remember the effects very well.
That's terrible.
And since then, I'm like, I'm just not going to use Ricola as cough drops.
I didn't know that Ricola cough drops had like any natural laxatives in it.
I'm not sure if it's all of them, but it was definitely the kind I was using.
That's also such a I feel like that's a weird thing to put in a cough drop.
Well, I think it's the fact that you're not supposed to just chain eat cough drops.
I guess that's true. Like candy.
Yeah. But it's like, if you eat cough drops the way you're supposed to eat them, they don't really have much of an effect.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like one, you suck on it for like 5 minutes, and then that's 5 minutes of relief, but then you got another hour before you're supposed to take the next one of just painful throat.
I never realized.
If you eat a whole bag of Ricola, you're going to shit.
Yeah, okay. Good to know.
And I was at work, and I was like, I had to go to the bathroom and not do the rest of my shift because I,
oh my gosh, that's terrible.
That's
terrible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you told me, so I can just never do that.
Yeah. Take them in small amounts.
I do enjoy, sucking on a Ricola when I've got a sore throat. Like, they're helpful. It's nice.
And they're like a nice flavor, too. They don't taste like that fake medicine.
They just like candy. Medicine, yeah.
Like the other ones, like Halls do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Terrible time. Sorry I went through that.
Well, it was a learning process. Like, that's something I'll probably never forget, that Ricola makes me shit.
That's true.
Or everyone shit.
It sounds like something you should put on your gravestone when you die.
Yeah.
Or like avoid pass down to your grandchildren. Like grandpa's wisdom.
I should probably look back at like the actual ingredient that it was, because that's something I forgot. But my second laxative story.
I didn't know we were going to be talking about this.
Well, that's okay.
It happens.
That's the spontaneity of it that I enjoy. But I was in 8th grade, and we had a demonstration speech that we had to give, and that was like our last project of the year. And we partnered up, and I partnered with my best friend. We decided to do a speech about how to make brownies.
Oh boy, I know this story actually. Go for it though.
Mostly for the purpose of, we like to make YouTube videos. So we're like, we could just turn our speech into a video, and then to us it'll feel like we're just having fun rather than doing schoolwork. So we made a video about it, and it's like 8 minutes, and our speech was supposed to be like 2. And then we're like, you know what else we could do? We could bring in brownies to give after they watch our video speech.
How sweet, right?
Yeah.
It sounds so innocent.
And then when we were in the process of making the video, we get the idea that we could make it even better and put laxatives in the brownies to poison our class.
Literally the worst thing you could do. That's evil.
We thought it was really funny, and I still think it's funny. Might be evil, but
oh my God.
Yeah. We put laxatives in the brownies, and in fact, in the video, we showed us putting laxatives in the brownies.
Did they just miss that part? Did it just go?
Yeah, it was only in there for a few seconds, but I was like, I just wanted to include it. As so they knew, an in-joke.
You could be like, well, you did watch a video in which it showed you we put laxatives in the brownies and you still ate them.
Yeah, it's not like we called out the fact that we're putting laxatives in them. It was just like when we're showing us adding the ingredients, one of the ingredients was the laxatives.
Oh my gosh.
And when we went to the store to buy them, there's a lot at like Walgreens, and I was asking the pharmacist there, like, how long do these take to like kick in, and like how strong are they? And this is where I made the mistake that I did, because I went for the fastest acting ones rather than ones that were like the most powerful, or rather than ones that would taste like chocolate, which was an important thing. So when we were making the brownies for the video, I tried some of the laxatives a little bit. It was like a liquid. It was like a bottle.
Okay.
So I like drank some, and it tasted like Sprite.
Interesting.
So we put like a half bottle into the brownies.
Oh my gosh.
And then after the video during class, we were serving the brownies, and we're 8th graders, so like we were kind of telling our friends about it. So like word was spreading before the class that we were gonna poison the class with laxatives.
Right.
So a few kids were like, I don't know, like if I want these brownies. So to make them like believe us that we didn't actually put laxatives in them, I ate like 2 of them to convince the rest of the class to eat them. So then everybody was eating the brownies, and somebody had a few, or some people had extras, and everyone's like, these brownies taste really weird. Because they taste like, they're like Sprite brownies. And I tried really hard to get my teacher to take some, to eat some, and she just refused.
She was like, I don't trust you kids.
Or maybe she just, didn't want to eat brownies. Maybe she was
vegan.
Maybe she was vegan.
You don't know.
Yeah. Or she was watching her, sugar.
Oh, man.
So then I had a lunch period right after that class. And I was sitting in lunch class, and the vice principal comes up, and he calls me and my friend Tyler up to the principal's office, because now word had spread, so they want to question us about it. So then we get there, and he asks us, and I just I wasn't lying. I was like, yeah, we totally did, because I thought it was funny and I wanted to own up to it. So then we got suspended for a week. But during that process of us sitting there telling the story to our vice principal, my entire English class had to walk into the health room, which was in the same little section of the school. So my whole class was walking to the health room, getting inspected, seeing if they were allergic to the laxatives that we used or anything. Or having to actually use the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah. So then I got not expelled. I got suspended, and I couldn't go to my 8th grade carnival.
Oh.
Because it was that week.
Oh. Well, you did poison your whole class, yeah. So.
And I lost the trust of my teacher. She was one of those teachers who thought I showed promise or whatever. Yeah. So she would give me books to read specifically that the rest of the class wasn't reading.
Yeah.
So she liked me.
You were
after that point, she didn't like me anymore.
Then you betrayed her.
Yeah. And then the following year, she had a breakdown and quit for some other reasons.
Probably because
of
you.
Or kids like
you
me.
were the only thing I had in this class, and you ruined it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that's terrible.
So for anybody looking to make laxative brownies, I think the first thing you should go for is laxatives that taste like chocolate.
Not Sprite.
Yeah. And you should probably go for strongest laxatives.
Not fastest acting.
Yes.
Have you seen... it's called American Vandal. It's on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. But the penis graffiti?
The other one, too. Have you seen the other one? The second season? It's all about that. Someone puts laxatives in, a drink, and they call themselves the turd burglar. And it's the whole thing. It's really funny. It's really, really well done, too.
I haven't seen that.
It's hilarious. And then they're trying to figure out who the turd burglar is this whole time. But it starts because they, put laxatives in some drink, and everyone's just pooping their pants. Everybody. Because it was, in the cafeteria.
Oh, that would have been good, too.
Yeah.
I only got one class
ideas.
rather than the whole school.
Yeah, exactly. They got the whole school.
Nice. That reminds me, have you watched any Community at all?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a great TV show. But there's an episode about an ass crack bandit who... He's not actually a bandit because he's inserting coins into people's butt cracks when they bend over.
Okay.
And then the format of the episode is it's this dramatic mystery and everybody's treating it as if they were murdered or raped or something. Yeah. So they're very dramatically upset, they were violated by getting quarters in their butts.
That's how the American Vandal is shot too. Yeah. In that one, it's very dramatic, and they're like, "What could this be? Who did this? What are the clues?" Yeah. It's really good.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah.
Are you well versed in plants and their names?
I am. Yeah.
Local ones or just?
I'm fairly familiar. I went to school and I got my degree in horticulture. There's a lot of native plants classes that I had to go through to achieve that. It's been a while since I've really flexed my native plant muscles, but I still have a lot just stuck in my brain. But the forte is more tropicals. That's my favorite. But I really enjoy just, going on a walk and knowing what I'm looking at, because it's important. There's there's an article that was written a while ago about tree-blindness and how most people don't have any idea what trees there are in their community. It's a tree. Yeah, it's just a tree. This tree has, needles. This tree is tall. It's not really anything defining. It's just that's a tree. Yep. Okay, anyway. But knowing what trees are where can help you understand wildlife and the benefits that they have. And then also pests, and if the tree is sick or whatnot, you can... find out. This is actually a fun story about the city. Is a couple years ago, it was 2 years ago, before we moved into this house, there was a tree across the street, and it was
cracked. He had a huge crack in it, and there were 2 branches in the shape of a Y, and it was like cracked right in the Y, And I saw that, and I was, because I'm looking at trees, I'm like just paying attention to them, and I looked at that, and I was like, this is gonna break soon. Like it's not just a regular like frost crack, it's like a huge crack. So I called the city, and I left a message, because it was like after hours, and I was like, there's this tree on this corner of these 2 streets. It's this kind of tree. It's right across from this address. It has a huge crack in it. It's like going to fall soon. Like, you guys need to cut it down as soon as possible. I also understand the city has a lot of trees on their radar. But I got a message, like I missed the call when the guy called me back. But he left me a message that basically said, ma'am, we're aware that there's trees that need attention in the area, and we have a lot of things we're working on, and like, don't be so scared, basically, and just kind of like shooed me off, like, it's fine, like, little girl, don't worry about it. And like 2 weeks later, there was a huge storm. It was in the middle of summer, so it was like a thunderstorm. No lightning hit the tree. It was just really windy, and this tree broke in half and crushed 2 people's cars. And I had this whole email exchange with me, saying to the city, hey, this tree is a hazard, and them telling me, no, it's not. And 2 people's cars got crushed. And so I sent them the email conversation that I had, and I like printed out the transcript of the voicemail that he left me. And I was like, here you go. Have fun suing the city.
Do you know if they did?
I don't know. I hope they did, because it was a hazard tree that I reported, and they didn't do anything about it. So look at trees in your neighborhood. Make sure none are going to fall on your house or your cars.
I mean, I guess they might not have, because imagine if they have car insurance, they probably had some sort of natural accident coverage.
That's true. But I mean, I just feel like the fact that it was reported previously and they didn't do anything about it, like, changes that a little bit, because it was reported as a hazard and they didn't do anything. Yeah.
If they did get sued over it, it's definitely cheaper to send out someone to cut the tree than it is to pay the fine,
exactly.
Like,
I mean,
for 2 people's cars.
It would probably take it would take a bit to cut down and like remove it, because it was a big tree, but alas. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you read any Jared Diamond?
No.
I saw that you have a book by Jared Diamond on your bookshelf.
Might be Casey's.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
Collapse.
Yeah, that's Casey's.
Oh, okay. I haven't read that one, but I've read Guns, Germs, and Steel, which is apparently a popular book that people get assigned in college to read. But
it doesn't ring a bell.
I just read it for fun. But I don't remember exactly what he is, but he has like a profession. I mean, aside from an author, but he goes to Papua New Guinea a lot to like study people and nature there. And he talks about how the people that live there have like a huge knowledge of the plants in the area. Like any average New Guinean knows like tens of thousands of species. Yeah. Just like in their head. Like that's just knowledge that you need to live there. Yeah. And he talks about how that's just how everyone used to be back like before agricultural. Right. Like the agricultural revolution. And that always really amazes me, that because you kind of think like humans are getting smarter over time. Right. But really, I don't know. I think we're probably just the same. Just now we have a narrower focus of what we know, and we like rely so much on external sources to keep track of things for us. Yeah. So if anything, we might actually be stupider now because we don't actually have to remember things. That's true. I do wonder though, like, I just feel like our, like kind of what you said, our knowledge focus has just changed a lot. Like, because of agriculture, we don't need to know what plants there are outside. Yeah. The only thing people care about is like, like, oh, I bought this nice flowering like shrub and I want it to stay alive for landscape purposes. And it's not super useful to have that. Yeah, it's like aesthetically pleasing, but like what value does it bring to like the, the community of plants in your yard or just in your like state even? Probably not much. Because there's a lot of plants that get bred just for looks, and they might be invasive species. There's a lot of invasive species that get bred and they have like less flowering capabilities, they say. Like they try to breed the flowering out of them as much, or the fruit bearing like ability. So then there's less of a chance that invasive species will spread. But it still happens. And they do that with buckthorn, which is one of the worst invasive species in Wisconsin. Like they have like a tall, like they've bred like a columnar version of buckthorn, which just means it's like very up
very upright and narrow.
Yeah.
And it still can produce fruit, or they say that they're all males, but then here and there, there's genetic variabilities in plants. And then there's just more invasive species everywhere. And people just roll my eyes at it. But also people don't know, which is what you were just talking about. Like, people just buy things because they're pretty.
Yeah.
And they don't research them a lot of the time. And then they put them in their yard and they either die or they might just be propagating an invasive species in their yard and not even know it, which is not cool. It's a bummer.
What do you think is the biggest issue with helping out invasive species? Like, how does it harm the ecosystem?
Well, there's certain invasives that when they're growing, they have, it's called allelopathy, and their roots essentially emit like a toxic, I'm pretty sure it's a pheromone, so that other things growing near them, they just can't grow. Like, they die, which is amazing that plants can do that, but it's also sad because they're doing it like for evil purposes, because they want to be the biggest, strongest plants in the area, and they're doing a great job. Garlic mustard is a huge problem in our forests in Wisconsin, and if you go into a forest in the spring, especially like a more urban forest, like around, in the city of Milwaukee, it's just all garlic mustard. Like, all of it. The whole forest floor.
What does garlic mustard look like?
It's like a short green, like soft plant. Like, it's not woody or anything. It's just a soft green herbaceous plant. It has these little white flowers that grow on top. They're just, it's everywhere. If you walk into a forest, you will see it. Like, and you can harvest it and you can make pesto and stuff like that. It's edible, but there's no way you're ever gonna harvest all of the garlic mustard. And like,
well, we could start a pesto company.
Garlic mustard pesto company. That's true. I mean, I've made pesto from it, and it does taste pretty good, but also I'm like, I don't know, did something pee on this? I don't know. Yeah, I wash it, but there's a lot of dogs in the city, so I worry about that. But yeah, it's a bummer. And then like, if you let it go to seed, then the seeds are just everywhere because they're tiny, and it multiplies like mad.
Yeah. Is that mostly just a problem with it like choking out other plant life, or does it disrupt animal life too? It
disrupts plants and animals, unfortunately, because a lot of like butterflies and other things that need like this. So the layer of leaves in the forest is called, people call it like the forest duft. And that's a really good like germination area for native plants like orchids or trilliums and things like that. And then also like, swallowtail butterflies, or maybe, I'm actually not sure if monarchs hibernate in leaves, but I'm pretty sure they do. Just different species of butterflies and things like that we need. It's disintegrating over time because of invasive species and also because of worms, actually. Earthworms aren't supposed to be here. We're not supposed to have earthworms in our forest.
Like, they're an invasive species?
They are, yeah. They're from Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff from Europe.
A lot of,
including us, we're invasive.
Yeah, exactly. Species. So, like, who am I to say that they can't be here? But that's a good point. That's a hard one to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it disrupts a lot of stuff, and it's a bummer because then, I mean, so in the forest there's supposed to be many layers. There's supposed to be a very short layer at the very bottom. There's supposed to be like another layer 3 or 4 inches up, and then 6 inches up, and then a foot, a couple feet, small shrubs, flowers, and stuff like that. But when it's just all garlic mustard and buckthorn, there's just garlic mustard and buckthorn. Yeah. There's no multiple layers, and
so like it destroys the diversity of a forest.
Yeah, exactly. There's no diversity, and the earthworms destroy all of the leaf layer, all the leaf litter in the forest, and then it's just, honestly, it becomes quite like sterile. Like, there's not a lot of stuff going on in there, which is really, it's extremely detrimental and it's really depressing.
Yeah. I
stopped enjoying walks in the forest after I learned all of the invasive species, in a way, because now whenever I go for a walk, I'm like, oh, there's some buckthorn, there's some garlic mustard, there's, a dead ash tree, there's whatever. It's just like kind of depressing when you know what you're looking at, in a way.
Yeah. I feel that way about pesticides.
Yes, pesticides.
And just overall animal population reduction.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's entirely in my head or partially in my head or not at all, but I feel like when I'm just out in nature nowadays, I notice it just went much more quiet than I feel like it was when I was a child.
Yeah, it's very quiet. And that's definitely, I mean, people spray garlic mustard in the forest. They put pesticides on it.
Yeah.
And is it better or worse? I don't know. It's like, do you let it take over and just
leave it be, because it's naturalizing itself and that's what's always happened in the world? Or do you try to control it and try to preserve the diversity of the forest, but also add a lot of pesticides into the forest and into like the water?
Yeah,
what's better?
I'd rather not do the pesticides and let it just grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, for some reason, what they don't do in most cases is use actual targeted pesticides. Mm-hmm. They just use all-purpose pesticides.
Lots of Roundup.
It's going to kill everything.
Yeah. Which I think it's just because it's faster. I don't know.
And there are tons of like documented cases of there's an invasive species, maybe of ant or mm-hmm. of like plants, and then they're trying to kill them with pesticides, and they manage to kill everything except for the invasive species.
Yeah, they're invasive for a reason. It's because they're strong. Like they're there because they're the strongest ones, and it's sad. I mean, there's a lot of feelings like native plants are dear to a lot of people. Like they grew up seeing them, and they're from here, like if you're from Wisconsin and all these plants are from Wisconsin, there's like a kindred feeling, like we've been here together. Like my family's always been here and these plants have always been here. And maybe your family used those plants in the past or whatever. But things change so constantly in the world, especially with us pushing it around like we are. And it's just inevitable that these things are going to happen. And it's almost like we should just let it happen sometimes, I wonder. But I love native plants. All of my favorite plants, like, that are outdoor plants are some natives in Wisconsin that I just like adore. And it's sad to see them start to go away. But at the same time, what do I do about that? You can make a prairie in your backyard and you can introduce some native plants there and kind of monitor them a little bit better. But in the forest setting, there's people who are doing the best that they can. And that's all we can really do right now.
You gotta just collect the seeds and hopefully reintroduce them later when we have a control on.
But then the problem with that is climate change is happening so quickly that a lot of native plants aren't able to adapt quick enough.
Yeah.
Which is why invasives are creeping in more too, because colder winters and then springs that last a long time. And sometimes, especially in the last couple of years, there's been springs that have a really bad freeze after things have thawed, and that kills off a lot of things. It'll kill off like tree buds. It'll kill off anything that's like starting to germinate in the leaves, and then they're just dead. Like the trees will leaf out again, but a lot of the more sensitive like plants and flowers that grow in the forest, they're not as protected. They're not as resilient because they're not like a woody species. They're more of like a soft plant, herbaceous plant. So
one thing that I don't know why it made me think of this because it's not really even that connected, but one thing I learned was that basically all of the UK, they don't have any natural forests anymore. They're all like manicured basically, so that whenever you see any footage of like some movie that's supposed to be like medieval, the people that are, I don't know, well versed in what forests are supposed to be automatically know like, oh, this isn't actually like an authentic what it would look like during this time.
This isn't a real forest.
Like you can immediately tell like this is a modern forest.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of losing that worldwide too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Things have changed. There's not a lot of old growth left. Like there's some on the West Coast, but things have changed a lot, and that's I was really depressed about it when I was in school and I was learning about it, but like as time goes on, I just can't let myself be that upset about it anymore because I can't do anything to stop it. And like I appreciate what I have and what I see, but I don't know that those plants are going to exist if I ever have kids, like when they're ready to understand that. But
yeah, on some level it's like it's not even appropriate to be sad about things like this because that's just the way of nature. Like species rise and go extinct, and it happens all the time. But I think totally sad about it when it's clearly human caused.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have happened without our meddling.
Right, exactly. I mean, most invasive species have been brought here by humans in one way or another because they think it's pretty. And they have to have it.
I know in the U.S., tumbleweed is one of the worst invasive species because that takes up literally like states worth of space.
Yeah, that's true.
You just go to like Utah, like
it's all tumbleweeds.
There's like inhospitable land because it's just miles of just tumbleweeds.
It's wild.
It's like almost impossible to get rid of them or build there because they're just in the way and they're so strange. Yeah.
They're very strong.
Yeah.
Like invasive species are just strong and they can just bust through things. I don't know. It's admirable in a weird way because they just, I don't know, they're very dominant.
Yeah.
But then I'm sad because I'm like the native species in this world. Like I'm getting like tumbled on, you know, by tumbleweeds of humans, you know, human tumbleweeds. But I don't know. I will protect them as much as I can, which is just me planting them in the yard and pulling out garlic mustard whenever I walk by it.
Yeah.
Telling him that I hate it and walking away. Like, I hate you.
Although, I guess from another perspective, it's mostly true that really all species started out as invasive species.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but in a lot of cases.
In a lot of cases. But, like, I mean, just like you talked about in Guinea, right? Like you said that I assume they work well with nature because they understand it and they take care of it. Same with, like, indigenous people in the U.S. before Europeans came and destroyed everything because people worked with nature in the past, but now we're very far removed from it, and that's why it's important to know what's around you. And, like, when I walk in the woods with the dog or with Casey or whoever, I can point out, you know, over 20 things that I can just munch on right there. So, like, if the world ever ends, I'm fine. I can just eat things that I find, but, like, a lot of people don't have that knowledge, and it's really cool to it feels like ancient knowledge, you know. It's like it's like hidden and like special, and like I'm harnessing some like ancestral thing, you know, like I just know these things. And it's very useful to me because I like to spend time in the woods and I like to munch on things, so best of both worlds.
On the one hand, it seems like really impractical knowledge, but then it also seems super practical too. Well,
like I get most of my food from the grocery store, but in the spring and summer I enjoy collecting some like black raspberries or like, you know, making garlic mustard pesto or like going to forage for mushrooms or whatever it is. But at the same time, I try not to. I kind of have a problem with people who forage a lot in the forest because it's not food that we need to eat. Like, there's animals who need that way more than we do, and so I try to leave it as best as I can.
Like, the forest has a use for it itself.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I'm fine. Like, I can go to the store and I can eat things, but if there's a deer that, even though, you know, deer have their own problems with, like, being invasive, if there's some sort of animal that's trying to find a snack and I just ate all their black raspberries, that's not very nice of me. Like, I should leave it for them. That's kind of how I feel. But I will take garlic mustard out of the woods at any chance and do whatever with it.
Yeah. Although I see a different perspective on that as well that I feel like is valid. Yeah, I guess you don't necessarily need to be foraging from the woods, but if that foraging is reducing the amount that you're buying from the grocery store, that's like the very epitome of eating local.
Right.
It's like you're reducing like carbon emissions and whatnot. Yeah. Because everything you're buying from the grocery store is probably from California or China or somewhere far away.
The only thing with that is like for me and for like the foods that we have around here, we don't have a lot of like, I mean, if you were in like the tropics and there was like mango and like papaya coconut everywhere and coconut, like that's awesome. But here we have like nuts and berries mostly, and then like, you know, some leaves we can eat. And that's, you kind of have to, you can supplement it with like, I've made muffins out of, you know, black raspberries, or like making the pesto. That's a great example. And that can reduce some of the things we buy at the store. But overall, I don't think that you can really like eat completely like wild, you know. It would take a lot of effort.
Yeah, not completely, but like, I don't know, if you forage for mushrooms, then you don't have to buy any mushrooms in the grocery store.
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to supplement your groceries for sure, as long as you're doing it responsibly and you're not being a jerk about it. Because people collect ramps in Wisconsin. Do you know what ramps are?
No.
They're like these wild onions, essentially, and people go crazy for them because they are like this big food trend, essentially. And they just taste like onions. Like, they are fine. They're not like, you know, truffles or something. But people dig them, so they like have a very slow life cycle. It takes them like years to get to maturity. And so they grow with a bulb, and then they have these leaves above the ground. And if you trim, like let's say there's a plant with like 6 leaves on it, and if you just trim like 2 or 3 of the leaves, it'll be fine. And it'll grow back the next year. But a lot of people want that little bulb that's in there. And unfortunately, when you remove a bulb from the soil, that's the whole plant.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing, and it's gone now. So when you dig that out, you're not only disturbing the soil, which, you know, can stir up seeds for invasive species, but you're also removing the whole plant. Like, it's just gone. And I don't like when people do that. You don't need to do that. You know, in that case, it's more responsible to go buy some onions at the store.
Right.
Sure, the flavor is not exactly the same, but you're also damaging the forest by taking them.
Do you eat the leaves then?
You can eat the leaves, yeah.
Does that have any sort of oniony flavor?
It's like a scallion. Yeah, it's like a green onion flavor.
Does it have the sort of like consistency of a green onion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like flat rather than like round.
I actually know a few people who either want to be or are frugivores for that kind of reason. Mm-hmm. That like if you are eating a cabbage, like that's the whole thing that was in the ground. Yeah. Whereas if you're eating an apple, like the thing that it comes from is still intact.
Yeah.
You're not killing anything.
You're not ruining the whole plant by eating it.
Yeah. You're not disrupting like potentially years of work.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like if it's a agricultural food like beets or like potatoes or something, as long as you're, being mindful, because you can save a few potatoes and you can replant them. Yeah. It just takes a little more effort. As long as you're being mindful, I guess. But I kind of understand, but I don't understand that type of person. Like I kind of get it, and I also am like, I don't know, man. It's just also just a beet. Like, it's fine.
So can you give me a lesson on how to identify edible plants? Is there any sort of like thing they have in common?
It's really tricky. Like, you can't depend on anything ever.
Yeah. It's not like snakes that you can know, like, those are poisonous because they're that color.
Yeah, I wish, but no. Especially with, plants vary on their growing conditions, on if there's like a plant in Wisconsin versus a plant in Illinois, they could be the same plant, but they could still look a little different, where you still might have a second guess of like, I don't know, is this the same plant? Just based on where it is. It's really tricky because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, this person said I could eat this, so I'm going to eat it and then I'm going to die.
Is there any sort of test you can do?
You can eat it. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that like the only thing that...
Yeah, there's no like, you could just have to do a lot of research. Like
rub it on your skin and see if it hurts after an hour?
Well, no, because there's stinging nettle, which will really hurt your skin, but you can blanch it and you can eat it and it's just fine. So it's difficult. There's no like tried and true method of knowing what's poisonous and what's not. But once you start to study plants that are edible, you can kind of look at things and start to estimate like, oh, I think this is in the same family, so this is probably okay to eat.
Is that a thing? Like if it's things in the same family or tend to have the same like characteristics of because aren't potatoes in the nightshade family?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the nightshade's like kills you?
Well, there's like potatoes and tomatoes are both nightshades, and then there's like a plant around here. I can't. It is a nightshade, but I don't remember like the whole name for it. But there's just tiny, almost looks like mini tomatoes. Yeah. I think the Latin name is like solanum something, but I think it was false that they were actually poisonous. Okay. Because back in the day, people thought tomatoes were poisonous because they were eating on.
Were they not?
They weren't poisonous. They were eating them on some zinc or copper plates or something.
And that's what was causing.
It was causing a reaction, and then they would get sick. But tomatoes, I don't think they've ever been poisonous.
Oh. Yeah, okay, that's good to know. I was under the impression that tomatoes were poisonous and we bred them out of being poisonous.
I don't think so.
I think we've done that for almonds.
Almonds. I know that no, that's a cashew I'm thinking of.
Because as far as I'm aware, almonds in their like quote unquote natural state before we have bred them over the course of years, they're poisonous to eat.
That sounds like totally could be a thing. Yeah. I know cashews, like their fruit is very poisonous, but the nut itself, like the seed, is not poisonous. Oh, okay. But have you looked at a cashew fruit?
I don't think I've ever seen like a whole cashew.
They look messed up. Like the before, like they're just crazy. You'll have to see it later. Cashews look wild. They're like, I don't know. You'll just have to Google it. Google cashew fruit. It looks wild.
We'll do that. Okay, can you like tell me one kind of edible fruit that I could find in the forest and like what it looks like?
They're the best. So I can go looking. One of the best ones, in my opinion, are black raspberries. When you see them, it's going to be in like midsummer, late summer. When they emerge, they just look like little red raspberries.
Like the same color?
Yeah, they're like, a bright dark reddish. They're a little bit smaller than a raspberry that you'd see like in the store. But when you see them when they're red, they're not ripe yet because they turn black, like pitch black. But they grow on what they're called brambles. So the vine itself is going to be like they're really pretty actually. In the winter you can see them really well because they have like a purple stem and then there's almost like a dust on them. It's not actually dust, but it's like it's like a white cast on the stem. And then they have thorns, so don't just go climbing in there because like you want to because there's berries everywhere, but the thorns are super painful.
and they are like hooks, so they like hook into your skin. So that's awesome because they don't want to be eaten. But they turn nice dark black. They have like large leaves with like 3 points. Kind of almost looks like a maple leaf, but a little different, like a nice textured leaf. But yeah, they turn dark black in the late summer, and they're delicious.
That kind of thing always makes me question like everything a little bit. How like
everything.
Some fruits or vegetables have defense mechanisms that seem like obviously if they were to want something, which I don't think they can, but you know, basically their evolution is saying like I don't want to be eaten.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, it seems like these things should want to be eaten because, for instance, like birds eating berries, that's one of the best ways they disperse.
Right. And that's exactly the case with the blackberries, too. With the black raspberries, is that birds can eat them and then the seeds get distributed, which is like great for them because then they just get distributed. Yeah. I don't know why. They have thorns. I mean, maybe it's for people like us, you know, because we're not birds. Birds can just land on like a stem and just like eat it. Yeah, it might be
a perfect pairing of like, they want birds to eat them because birds fly and will distribute them far and wide. Right?
Yeah, but not us or bears or something. You know, like I can't tell you how many times I've reached in to a black raspberry bush because I see some beautiful berries in there and I just scratch up my whole arm, but I still go back to it. That's the thing is like I'll never not go try and eat them because I know that they're tasty, you know? So I don't know if it's working or not. I don't know what's next with the black raspberries, if they'll like develop something else as time goes on.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that'll take, 200
eons.
Yeah. One memory I have that is really great. Well, it's a series of memories, I guess. I was in France staying with a family. I've probably told you about that before, but we had a raspberry bush. They had a raspberry bush right outside like their front door. Then it was like, I don't know, October or something, and they finally were like full size. And so then every morning for like a week, I just walk outside and like pop some off. And I never had like actually plucked raspberries off the bush before. Right. They're just so satisfying to pull off the little bulbs.
Yes, they are. And it's just the little like white thing left over. Yeah. And they're perfect. We have a raspberry bush outside. So in the summer, you'll have to munch on them.
Oh, yeah. And raspberries are my favorite fruit.
And these, I mean, they ripen in the sun and they're like so big and like juicy and they're perfect. They're so good. And it's like a huge bush outside. It's really nice. There's nothing that beats like fresh fruit, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's why I love having little snacks from the woods because it's just these like nice little treats that you get as you're walking by. It's like a very special thing. I do feel very like, I know I always like say thank you, which is like silly, but I'm always like very grateful towards the, the black raspberry bush or like the forest in general. Just like thanks for existing.
Yeah, I think that's a good attitude to have. I think depending on how people take it, I get a little bit skeptical because I don't know, there's this sort of like nature spirituality that some people have that I think that they're taking it too far. Like, I mean, like the raspberry isn't sentient.
Right, of course.
But at the same time, like being thankful of nature.
It's more
and, like,
for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I know there's like a fake like spiritual nature lover who is, like they're like, oh, I love nature. It's so awesome. But then they like, don't have any really sustainable ideas or practices. They don't really understand or respect the forest. They just, like maybe they have a campfire in the woods and then they just like leave it there.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you really appreciate it for what it is or if you just kind of have this facade that you just put up to like have this certain image, which I really just, I mean, that makes me sad because I see a lot of people who do like, they take too much from the woods and maybe they post a bunch, or something that kills me is people who, there's tons of really beautiful spring wildflowers. Like that's my favorite time to go look in the woods for things. It's just to observe the flowers that come in the spring, because if you have like a really nice wooded area that has like a lot of natural flowers that have just been there for a long time, it's gorgeous. Like it's amazing. So walking in the woods when there's spring flowers is like breathtaking. But unfortunately, people love to pick flowers. And there's just been times that I've seen people like, back in the day when I was on Instagram, people just posting things online of like, look at this basket of flowers I picked. And it's like all like, protected species. Like you shouldn't be picking them because it's just damaging. Like there's no point in picking them. It's just for you, like it's just for the person who is doing it just so they can, I don't know, like I don't like to treasure this thing, I guess, or to like post a photo of it and be like, oh, I'm like in the woods picking things. I don't really know what the like feeling is behind it, but just that really makes me sad to see that.
When they pick these flowers, or when people do, Is it like ripping them out of the ground entirely that they won't grow back? Or is there a way to pick flowers to make them still
There's some flowers grow? That you can pick and it's fine. Like, you know, if you're like walking along the street and you see some daffodils just like growing there, like in the spring, like daffodils are fine. Like they're not an endangered species. They're not, you know, a species that's in peril at all. If you pick it, it's not the end of the world. But if you're walking through the woods in Wisconsin and you see like a trillium, which is like a really lovely like 3-petaled spring flower, and you pick it, it's an endangered flower and it's a protected flower, and it just shouldn't be picked because it's endangered. You know, like there's not that many left, and that's probably mostly because of garlic mustard, and also because of like erosion and things like that, and earthworms and all that. But then there's some plants, like there's a certain type of orchid that grows in like near Devil's Lake that is like completely illegal to pick. Like you can't pick it. Like if you know, people do, of course, but it's like to the point where, you know, and this is what I'd mentioned earlier, people poach plants because these plants become very valuable as time goes on, and they start to be so rare that people start to really want them. And that's when it starts to become really dangerous, because then people take them out of the wild and they maybe try to cultivate them, or maybe they just sell them from, you know, stealing them from the woods. It's like weird, because why would anyone like, it just, for me, it's just like such a foreign idea to like steal something out of the woods and then like sell it to someone else.
I mean, whatever makes money.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's what's happening right now in like places like Thailand and Indonesia and things like that, where they grow tropical plants. Like tropical plants right now are booming. Like ever since the pandemic started, people have been spending more time at home and they decided they want more plants. And if you have Instagram and you follow, you know, maybe some plant influencers or something like that, like these people just post an aesthetic photo of a very specific plant that's maybe it's hard to come by, or maybe it's like a specimen plant that's really beautiful, and then everyone starts to want it, you know. And then that's when people in countries that have rainforests and jungles say, I'm gonna go get that plant's just growing in my backyard, or I saw that plant in the jungle the other day, I'm gonna go just rip it off the tree it was growing on and then sell it to people in the US who have no idea, or even people in the same country, you know, which part of me can't blame them, because they're just profiting off people's trends, which right now, you know, houseplants are very trendy. But I'm also like, you're destroying things. And like, I get you have to make money, but like that's not the best. I can't judge people for how they make money, but that's not the best thing. I just wish it wouldn't happen, you know. Has
your number of plants that you own gone up over this?
Honestly, no, it's gone down, because I'm like trying to rearrange my house so that it doesn't revolve around plants anymore, because I feel like that's selfish of me. And I live with another person, I live with 2 dogs, and I just don't want to have just my things everywhere. Like, I never consider myself a collector of anything, because I don't collect stamps and I don't collect like buttons or whatever else people collect. I don't even know. But then I looked at my plant collection one day and I was like, holy shit, like I have collector. So many plants. I'm a plant collector. For some reason it didn't ever register, because they're just like there and they're just integrated into my life. And they're not like, it's not like someone collecting like, you know, signed baseballs or something where it's like, here's my baseball collection, you know. It's just like, I just live with them and they're there, and I don't even really think about them not being there or being there. They're just like a part of my life. Yeah. Which, I don't know, it's like kind of weird. So I've been actually trying to size down a bit, because I don't need this many. And I'd like to focus on the ones that I really love, instead of just having like as many as possible.
Yeah. So when you say plants are protected, or like it's legal to pick them, do people actually get in trouble for doing that?
I doubt it. I mean, I think the only way you could get in trouble is if you, I don't know, I guess if someone happened to walk by and see you do it, or if like you were leaving the forest and like someone saw you with like a pocket full of like lady slipper orchids or something like that. But I can't see how they would persecute someone. I don't know how they would even find out, because you're mostly alone in the woods. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of thing always seems really hard to regulate. Like fishing licenses and that kind of thing. That's probably a little bit easier, at least, because hunting seasons or fishing seasons are like a big thing, and you kind of have to be in a location for it, like along a river if you're going to be fishing. So DNR agents can find you and ask for your license. But yeah, just like wandering through the wilderness picking protected flowers. I feel like no DNR agent is going to catch you doing that.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, there's not as much value placed on those things as
That's true. They're probably not even on the lookout for that either.
Exactly. Like, maybe it's a rule, but do they care about it as much as they would a fishing or a hunting license? Probably not.
Yeah, are they willing to have a whole department of people looking out for
Right, exactly. I mean,
poaching?
Some places will, like, fence off certain areas and put a sign up that says, like, don't go past this, you know, because we're trying to grow native plants.
Yeah.
And that's great, but not everywhere has that. I mean, I don't think that... Honestly, too, I don't think most people are, like, ill-intentioned when they pick flowers from the forest. I think they just don't know. Maybe they just see... That's what they do. They see a beautiful flower, and they want to pick it and take it home so they can enjoy it for a few days. But if you think beyond that, it's like, you might enjoy it for a few days, but you just, like, completely ruined this thing.
Yeah.
And it's not the greatest thing to do.
Well, completely off topic here, but do you think that anybody's ill-intentioned when they do really much of anything? Like... I mean, sometimes you do something to a person out of spite or, like, you want to get revenge on them. But I feel like even if you're poaching, like, animals or, like, even if you're engaged in, like, I don't know, drug dealing that are, like, you know, drugs that kill people.
Right.
Like fentanyl or whatever. I feel like most cases people probably are doing it not out of ill intentions. And the fact that it's bad is... Or the fact that they're doing bad things is more of a consequence of their ignorance of it rather than any sort of desire to... cause harm.
I think too, well, I think people do bad things, definitely. But I think a lot of the time they might not think about it as bad because they're so focused on taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Like with, you know, drug dealing or poaching. They're just trying to make money, you know, and that is kind of ruling their brain at that time. So they don't see it as, I'm doing this because I want to hurt people. It's more of, I'm doing this because I have to survive and I don't have any other option. Or the other options aren't attainable to me right now. And that's very unfortunate. But that's why I can't blame people for what they do a lot of the time. And, like, I just can't... I don't think anyone should really treat anyone too harshly because no one really knows why you're doing something. You know, no one knows why you're doing that. So, yeah.
Speaking of Thailand and plant poaching there's also a few other bad things that happen in Thailand.
A few.
Yeah, more than a few, actually. I mean, in any country, really.
Right.
But each one has their specific set of bad things that happens. In Thailand, if you go there, you should probably be really careful about where you go if you want to see animals. Like, if you want to see tigers or if you want to see elephants. I'm pretty sure there are 0 tiger sanctuaries in Thailand that are ethical, that they actually treat the tigers well. And then lots of elephant sanctuaries are pretty messed up too, because it's actually really terrible for elephants' backs for people to go on them and to ride them.
I believe that.
And most elephant sanctuaries, like, that's part of it. Like, you get on the elephant, take a picture for a fun time. A lot of the cases, they treat the animals really poorly and they, like, drug them and deprive them of, like, food and whatnot so that when the people get there, like, you can feed them. And or in... like the Philippines, they have, is it manatees or is it killer whales? One of the two, that you can go to this area and then, like, feed the killer whales, except it's really bad for the ecosystem because the whales are just fed constantly. So they're staying in that same place all the time because they know it's a consistent source of food. And they're really supposed to span the entire ocean, swimming around and interacting with all of the ocean ecosystem rather than just staying in one spot.
That's hard.
Whether it's plants or animals, you probably should look into it as much as you can.
Yes.
Where it's coming from.
I think that's a good rule for, like, pretty much anything, honestly. Just do a lot of research on things. A lot of people, I don't know if they want to put that effort in.
Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons I was talking to you about earlier before we started recording, of how I don't really own much.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the reasons I don't own much, because I don't really want to put in the effort to researching things. So I'd rather just not buy the things.
Yeah, that's fair. It also makes life easier when you have to move or just do anything. I'm trying to get rid of a lot of things that I have because I don't need them. I don't feel like I need them anymore. I had held on to a lot of things in the past, and, like, in the house I grew up in, it was very cluttered, and I feel like that was just like a screen, you know, like a distraction. But when I was a little kid, I would, like, alphabetize the movies we had because I wanted some order.
Oh yeah, I would do that too.
It's like, why would we do that? Like, I don't know. I was just like, oh, this is fun. We had, like,
300 VHS tapes, you know, like Disney tapes. Yeah, and I would like literally alphabetize them and then sometimes be like, oh, let's do colors instead.
Yeah, or like let's do by release date.
Yeah,
or,
it's like, why?
Let's group Disney movies together.
Yes, and then Pixar in a different one. It's like just the need. I think humans crave order and understanding. And like for me, when I was a kid, I needed to like understand things, and like I needed to work hard to like just have my own little piece of like, okay, I know that this is everything is fine over here.
Yeah.
It's just strange.
I mean, I still think that's probably a good thing to do on average, to create order in your little part of the universe.
Yeah, definitely. Makes
it easier to, I don't know, focus on other things.
Yes, I agree. That's something that when I talked about what I've been doing over the last 5 years, that's something I've been working on, is just trying to, that's why I'm getting rid of some plants too, is because I'm trying to refine what I really want in my life right now.
Yeah.
And most of the things I have, I don't want. Like, I don't want or need them. Like, when's the last time I picked up this book? Or when's the last time I, like, opened up this notebook that I have? Like, I've recently got rid of some of my school stuff because I was like, do I really need this whole notebook full of things that I'm never going to open again?
Right.
And, like, I have a lot of the knowledge in my brain. And then, like, I was also like, well, I have the internet. Yeah. I know that's like a bad thing to like think or say, like to rely on the internet, but I don't want to carry around like notebook after notebook when I can just quickly Google something. I'm not going to look through all my notebooks to find an answer to something in reality. Maybe like in the 70s you'd have to like do that, but like I don't have to do that and I'm not going to.
Yeah, for school I just kind of like refuse to buy textbooks because I can just find anything I need on the internet.
Yeah. Also, buying textbooks overall is just a scam.
Oh, it is. So yeah, the prices of textbooks has gone up like 8,000% in the past 30 years.
Yeah, I'm not. I think when I
made up those numbers, but
8,000%
they're roughly
facts.
accurate.
It's definitely a fact. When I was in school, I think I probably bought like 3 textbooks for the whole 3 years I was in school.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't need them. And also, since I'm a nerd, I already had some of the plant books I needed, and I had already read them.
Nice.
Like How Plant Works by Linda Chalker Scott. And I'm like, oh, I already read that book. Cool. I don't know. It's funny.
Unfortunately, there are a few I do have to buy because now with like online schooling during coronavirus, there's like these online programs that you only have access to if you buy the ebook or whatever.
And they're so expensive too.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense because it's a fucking PDF.
Right.
Like,
that should cost $130.
I know. I had to buy one when I was in school, and I think it was literally like $150. And then like it was a subscription you had to buy, and then also a PDF/book. So it was like $80 for the subscription for a year, and then $100 and some for the actual like a PDF. Yeah, like, oh my gosh. I hate it. Like, I hate that so much. I don't have any money for school stuff. When you're in school, you don't have money most of the time.
And there's so many sources that, like, you can find online. You can find the free versions of the books online, almost any book. So if you have a class that does not require some specific access code, just get the free books.
Right, exactly.
But it's awful when they require the access code.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for, like, math classes. I feel like that's the one that is usually, like, expensive in my experience. Like, you have to buy a math textbook, and then you have to buy like an e-learning like program too. But then I'm also like, okay, so it's graded when you submit it through the program. So what is this teacher doing for me?
Not much.
Like, all you're doing is not answering my emails and then yelling at me when I don't turn my things in because I don't understand them. So
yeah. Did you have? Was this last semester?
It was, before I dropped out of my last school. I was like having such a hard time with my math class. And
did you have any like virtual like class periods?
No.
Yeah, then your teacher shouldn't have existed.
She doesn't okay, so it was all like self-guided learning. There were no meetings, there was no like discussion board talks, there was nothing.
Yeah. And then your class itself probably cost like $800.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. So then the actual class cost.
And presumably normally that's like I'm paying the teacher.
Right. That's what I always like hope for. But in that case, what are you doing? Yeah. I can do that job because all you do is don't reply to emails. Like, I do that already right now. Like, I should get paid to be a teacher. No, I know there's more to teaching than that in most cases. But
not in that case.
Not in that case. I was just like a little annoyed during that time. Also, that the school I was at was not treating me well. So that's a whole different story.
Yeah. You're going to a Lutheran school.
Yeah, really. A private Lutheran school, which made me want to rip my hair out.
Yeah, part of the curriculum was gay is bad.
Yeah, it was. It was literally homophobic and what else? Oh, they victim blamed people, women. Yeah, good times. Great school.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm not there anymore, so I'm fine.
Yeah, that's good.
What?
I'm just looking at the next subject.
Is it fear?
No, well, I mean, it's healing properties of plants.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I know, I was just, my question is going to be general, like, what is...
Just what? Huh?
Yeah, so, I don't know, are you into, like, the...
adaptogens?
Using plants for specific, like, medicinal purposes?
No, so what I meant by that topic was more of, like, the mental health boost you get from plants, in my case, at least.
From being around them? Or?
Yeah, from being around them. Well, there's already, like, studies that have come out that have shown that, you know, walking in the forest is really good for your mental health and things like that. And I think why so many people started flocking to houseplants once, you know, coronavirus started happening is because it does make you feel better a lot of the time to have plants around you. Most of the time, unless it's a chore to take care of them, which is what you said earlier. But I think that so many people were finding themselves, like, isolated and sad during, especially the first couple months of the pandemic, when we knew even less than we know now. Everyone wanted to fill their house with some greenery because it makes you feel better.
Yeah, living in a less artificial environment.
Yeah, less artificial. Still artificial, but less artificial. Just that you get to care for something, you know. For me, when my friend passed away, the reason I got my dog was because I needed to, like, care for something. I needed to, like, spend time taking care of something because I, like, couldn't take care of myself, and I needed somewhere to put my love, and I needed somewhere to put my attention, essentially, because I wasn't, like, capable of giving myself any attention at that time. So I got this needy ass puppy who would pee on the floor and chew on me and bark at me and get stuck under the dresser and, like, do all these things. And she was perfect, you know, perfect distraction and the perfect thing that helped me just move on a little bit more, or not move on per se, but just, like, start to cope. And then with all my plants, I spend so many hours on my plants every week, you know, and it's really rewarding because there's something that I understand how to care for them, and I put a lot of time into them, and they give back to me in a way that I get to see them, you know, new growth and just a healthy plant that is also beautiful to look at.
I'm having many thoughts right now.
Okay.
Do you think, from your personal experience and what you've seen, that plant ownership is more of a thing for women?
I think so. Yeah, I do think so.
Do you think that's due to, like, evolutionary girls having the mothership, like, wanting to take care of things, need or desire or whatever, that's kind of ingrained into women, generally speaking?
I think it could be a part of it for some people. I also think there's a lot of, like, nurture. Women are taught to take care of things from a very young age. You know, here's a baby doll, make sure you feed it and you cover it up at night and stuff like that. Whereas young boys are given, like, a monster truck and they just, like, throw it against a wall and they're like, haha, good job, you know. Whereas girls are taught to be gentle and kind and, like, caring and just, you know, look out for others and compassionate. And boys are just like, oh, look at that crazy kid smashing his head in the wall, haha, well, he's just a little boy, you know, like, people do that. And, like, that's something that's changing now, luckily, but the whole boys will be boys thing, and then girls are expected to be this, like, pristine, like, caring mother figure for everybody. But in general, I think maybe women, maybe they're more comfortable with their, like, caring side, you know, or maybe they're more, like, able to connect to that side because they have had that nurtured in them from their parents or grandparents or peers or whatever. So maybe they're just automatically more comfortable, you know, just doing that. But I think there's a lot of men, of course, who enjoy houseplants and like get a lot of joy from taking care of them.
Yeah, I just wonder if on average it's more of a female thing. Because you were talking about, like, taking care of the dog, taking care of plants. Yeah,
that's just a problem I have. I just like to take care of things and people, though. That's like a personal problem.
Well, no, I was just wondering, like, it seems like it would give you a good reason for existing. Because something is, like, depending on you. And, and being able to watch something grow and, like, see something become, like, bigger and become...
Yeah, it's almost like a plan you have, you know? It's almost like, you know, for me, it's like I have this plant and it's a little baby plant, and in my brain, I'm imagining what it's going to look like when it grows up and gets more mature, and I'm, like, excited for that, and it's like a little plan that I can try and follow through with. And, like, when I got my dog, that was something that I had in mind too. I'm like, oh, I wonder what she's going to look like when she's 6 months old. I wonder what she's going to look like when she's a year or 2 years, or how...
Did you get your dog as a baby?
Yeah, she was, I think she was
8.5 or 9 weeks old. She was like a tiny baby. She was a demon baby. And I loved it, but I also had a hard time. I was already going through a hard time. Then I had an infant to take care of all of a sudden. An infant dog, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and what you said actually like makes a lot of sense to me personally, because during that time when I got my dog, and why I started accumulating so many plants is because I have always had a hard time taking care of myself. And so putting my care into other things has also helped me understand how to take care of myself better. And if I neglect my plants, they're going to die. If I neglect myself, I'm going to die, you know, mentally or physically, whatever it may be. It's nice to kind of, in a way, liken myself to the plants or the dog, or just these small things of just like, you have to keep your house clean, you know, you have to do your dishes and cook food. You have to do all these things. It's just like, you have to do that to yourself too. It's like taking more responsibility over myself via the plants in a way.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of pushed me to not be mean to myself anymore.
But that whole thing that you were just saying reminds me of something we were talking about earlier today, of parenting, and whether or not dogs count or having a dog counts as being a parent.
It's such a gray area. But as I said earlier, I feel like parenting is just taking care of something, but that's kind of like too loose. I don't know. Since I got Zazie as a little baby, and I made her grow up, you know, I grew her and she's now a really, you know, well socialized, happy dog. And part of that is just because of who she is, but also because I spent a lot of time making sure she was socialized and teaching her manners and just like how to be a good girl. And what else is parenting, you know? Teaching your child how to be a good person and making sure they don't die, feeding them, I don't know, like changing their diaper. I had Zazie pooped on the floor a bunch. Like, I feel like it's like there's a lot of parallels.
Right.
So. And
then the one thing that I thought of was that the difference may be in the fact that as a parent, for most cases anyway, is that there's this expectation that you're raising a thing so that it can be independent of you later. You're raising it so that you don't have to take care of it. It can take care of itself.
Right.
Whereas with a dog or a plant, that's not the expectation. Yeah. The expectation is to keep it until it dies.
Right. That's true. I think in that sense, people definitely use parent as a very loose term, especially when they're like, I'm a plant parent, because it's like, are you a plant parent? Or do you just, you know, you have some plants and you water them every so often? They don't require constant care and attention. Yeah. A dog or maybe another type of pet requires more attention than a plant a lot of the time.
And they don't require any sort of like behavioral like change or like discipline or anything like that.
Yeah. I feel like dogs, I mean, even cats are a bit more hands-off than dogs a lot of the time, in my opinion, because they don't have to go for walks. They don't have to go outside, and a lot of the time people don't socialize their cats to be friendly around other cats or around people. But having 2 dogs now it's a challenge. As you saw, you know, one of my dogs he was a stray, and he was, you know, adopted and returned multiple times, and he was from Texas originally, and he's just a psycho sometimes, but that's because he had a weird puppyhood. You know, he didn't get socialized properly, and he doesn't have the trust that my other dog has, who was raised from, you know, a baby and absolutely spoiled and like taken really well care of.
Yeah. I always wonder about these things though, like with the socialization and the personality of your dogs, how much of it is nurture and how much of it is nature.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the puppy that I got is a golden retriever, which is known for being mild-mannered and really easy to train and really flexible and like just a good dog. And the other dog is a German Shepherd and Bull Terrier mix, who both of those dogs are hard-headed. They're both smart dogs, and they're both like, I mean, Bull Terriers especially are known for being difficult to work with. So it's probably both, especially in their case, because I'm sure the golden retriever would have turned out fine even if I hadn't done the best I could. Right. But the other one might have still turned out a little rough around the edges just because he's got it in his blood and his brain to be like crazy, you know?
I feel like nowadays especially there's this assumption on the side of nurture most of the time. And maybe that's because it makes us feel good about life, that we have control over things, or to not, I guess, be discriminating, whether it's dog breeds or like humans. Like for instance, I wonder if the thing you're talking about with the toys, like giving a baby doll to a girl or a truck to a boy, like there's certainly an element of nurture there. We're making the decision to try and raise people this way and condition them to like these things.
Yeah.
But then I also wonder if us doing that is reflective of nature. Like the reason we do that is because we noticed these things. We like maybe noticed a difference in guys and girls.
Right.
So we decided to embrace it and then like say like, oh, well, you're, gonna have babies someday. So here's a little baby you can practice now.
Yeah, that's possible. But also it's like, I don't know, not all women want to have kids. Right. I just recently started wanting to even think about that, Yeah. From my whole life thing, I'm not going to have kids ever, And then a couple, 2 years ago, I'm like, maybe I could do that. I was like against it, very strongly against it for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like I was talking to you a few months back. And
yeah, it literally, well, yeah, I guess it changed more recently too, then like more strongly, because I was like very against it for a long time. But now I'm like, oh, it's possible. I'm just like, growing up in like a rougher environment made me not want to put a kid through anything just in case, out of fear. So I was just like, oh, what if like, I don't want them to go through what I went through, so I'm just not going to even try, Yeah. But now that I have like a good partner in my life and I'm like getting older and I'm starting to kind of understand life a tiny bit more, I'm like, maybe. Yeah. Maybe someday.
And whether or not owning plants
owning parents
or owning dogs counts as parenting, it's certainly good practice for parenting.
Definitely
better practice than not owning them.
Yes, I agree, especially with the dogs because they are a handful. And I mean, like,
it's probably as close as you can get to a like substitute for
like I can't just come and go as I please anymore. When I was in high school and I could just like leave whenever I wanted to and stay out all night and just not tell anyone where I was, and I was fine, But if I did that now, my dogs would starve and go to the bathroom inside and like be terrified, because I wouldn't have. I have to keep them in mind. They always have to be in the back of my mind, making sure that they're taken care of. And I miss not having the ability to just do whatever I want, but I'm more rewarded having them and like seeing them on a daily basis and knowing that we have all of us have a good relationship.
Yeah. That makes me think that perhaps not only did owning a dog / plants, is it preparing you for possibly one day having a child, but maybe it's actually making you want one too.
That's very possible.
Because now you're seeing that like satisfaction and like reward from taking care of something.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't really have like a family dynamic ever. When I was really young, there was the most I've ever had of a family dynamic, like before my mom and dad got divorced. And when I was really little, I was like, oh, I love my family. I have 3 other siblings. I love my siblings. This is great, But then as soon as they got divorced, everything just kind of got chaotic. And it was chaotic before that too, definitely. But at least in my mind, I was like, well, at least we're all together, even though it was really terrible. But I always felt close to my family. And then as soon as that happened, I stopped feeling like I missed them, things just broke apart. And from, age like 13, I started feeling really alienated until recently at age almost 26. I finally have like a solid family dynamic again, even though it's with 2 dogs and my boyfriend. It's like the most I've had in a really long time.
Yeah.
So now that I see that I can have like a healthy family relationship and that there's not like arguing and there's not like an abusive person in my life anymore, I'm like, oh, maybe this is why people have kids, because like they're not in a fucked up situation and like they want to like have a family. And now that you're probably right with that, because for the first time, I'm not like having a hard time in a long time.
It makes me wonder too, because it seems like most families have pets.
Yeah.
And I wonder in all these cases, is it usually that the couple gets a pet and then a child rather than the other way around?
Yeah, I
wonder. So then for like most people, that pet makes them want the child because they've now experienced that satisfaction of making something grow.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt in my mind, like pets definitely make a family, like for sure. Because you can have 2 people in a, just like, I don't know, a girlfriend and a boyfriend or whatever it is. And it can still be a family, definitely. You don't need a kid, you don't need a pet to make it complete. But for me, I grew up in a larger family, and we always had a dog, we always had a couple cats, we always had pets, and I think I'm kind of recreating that familiar feeling in a way.
Yeah.
And it's bringing about some feelings of me just being able to take care of something and showing that I can have a stable environment and like a stable family has definitely made me feel better about that whole idea, because before that I was just like terrified of the concept.
Yeah.
Like this little thing I have to like grow inside of me and then push it out, and then it's just this like sighing or like crying like stinky thing. Like I have to take care of it or it'll die, you know? Yeah. And since I like went through Zazie, my one dog, being a little baby, and she ate a peach pit once, which is extremely poisonous. And I thought she was going to die, so I had to, like, give her peroxide to make her throw up.
Yeah.
She puked all over my legs, and I had to look through her puke to make sure all the pieces of the peach pit came out. So I feel like I'm getting experience for the future. If my kid eats, like, a Lego or something, like, I can be like, oh, I remember that peroxide makes you puke, you know? Like, because Zazie ate a freaking peach pit that one time. And then I don't know, I feel like maybe that helps. I can at least be a little bit desensitized if something does happen, and I can like react more calmly because I've been through it already.
Yeah, that's what happens when, you know, parents have lots of children. The first one, they're all paranoid about the kid's safety. By the fourth one, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. But then, you know, I have 3 siblings, so 4 total kids in my family. And it was like that. My oldest sister was like highly scrutinized. And then my brother, he's the only boy in the family, so he's like special. And then it's just me and the middle child, you know. And then there's my little sister. Oh, you're also the middle child? Yeah. Then there's my little sister who's like the baby, and everyone loves her, you know. And then so it's kind of like my older sister, like if she was gone for a long time, my mom and my dad would get like so like scared, like what's she doing, where is she, and she'd get like yelled at. By the time they got to me, not only had they gotten divorced and things had changed so much, and my mom was so busy and my dad was gone, you know, that I would just be gone for like a week, 2 weeks, and no one even noticed. I'd come back and like no one even said anything about it, and I'd be like, I was just gone for 2 weeks. Like, did you even know that I was gone?
Yeah, I've got a similar situation to that,
It's
when
weird.
I was in high school.
It's very strange. And, like, I wonder why. I don't know. They're probably like, yeah, she's fine. Quinn's fine. she's smart enough. She'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, I guess that was my own thing, right? Like, I was already let go at that point to adventure on my own.
Yeah, like your first kid, you don't let go of them until they physically leave the house.
Yeah.
Third kid, like after they're 7, they're on their own.
Yeah, exactly. You're free to do what you want at that point.
Yeah. I did think of an experiment that I could do to get some data towards this hypothesis of pets making you want children.
Mm-hmm.
So Adrian really wants a cat and has always really wanted a cat. And I wonder, she doesn't want children at all.
Right.
So I wonder if we got a cat, maybe in 2 years she would start to want a child.
So you're going to experiment on your girlfriend.
Possibly.
I mean, that would be very interesting because maybe she would just feel like it's more of a family dynamic at that point, you know? For me personally, I really think it did help me feel like it was more of a family. Yeah. Like getting Zazie, even though I got her for a separate reason, just having her in my life. And I mean, I took on a mother role, you know, I was caring for her and making sure she didn't die on a peach pit. So I think it has to have some sort of effect. Or maybe it's just that people who are already oriented to want a family are also more open to having pets.
That could also be it. That's the hard thing to know, which way it goes.
Yeah.
Could be A to B or B to A.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've always had a lot of pets, and I've always had like a larger family. So.
Oh, yeah. There was one subject I wanted to talk about actually a little bit that I was touching on earlier today slightly. I just wanted to say it because I've been thinking about it, and it feels good to get my thoughts out into words. So with like dogs and dog ownership, I've never owned a dog, and I like dogs just fine. I didn't as a kid. There was this one dog that my cousins had that I was just scared of, and it would like terrorize me, chasing me around.
Okay.
And it was probably having a fun time, but I thought it was trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So I was afraid of dogs for a little while. I'm not afraid of dogs now, but I don't know. I feel bad for dogs now. Like I pity dogs.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because like if you compare dogs and cats seem independent. They don't really need your love.
Yeah.
Sometimes they like to cuddle up with you and whatnot, but it seems like they'd be fine without you. Dogs, not at all.
Right.
Like they're so needy.
Yeah.
Every dog I've seen anyway. They're like, they always come up to you and like when you come inside and they're all like so excited to see you.
Yeah.
And it makes me think like a dog's life seems to revolve around the attention from other people.
Yes, definitely.
And I mean, to some extent, that's just true of like everyone.
Yeah.
like attention is the most important currency.
Yes.
That was the thing I was saying earlier today. And then it made me think of this movie. Have you seen Lady Bird?
Yeah, I love Lady Bird.
I just watched it for the first time a few days ago, and this added to that thoughts on attention.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she's talking to a nun. She goes to a Catholic school, and she lives in Sacramento. And a lot of the movie, she's like talking about how she hates Sacramento, and it's like a boring, bland place to live, and she wants to live in New York.
Yeah.
So she, for her college admission essay, she writes an essay about Sacramento, and she has her nun teacher read it.
Right.
And she reads it, and the teacher says, like, I can feel through your writing how much you love Sacramento.
Right.
And then Lady Bird is like, I don't love Sacramento.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like Sacramento. I just pay attention.
Yeah.
And then the nun says, well, don't you think they're the same thing?
Yeah.
Love and attention. And I really like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
So, yeah, dogs, they're really dependent on your attention. They need a lot of love to be happy. Where cats need less love, like the threshold is lower.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. I mean, especially my two dogs personally. I know that varies definitely between dog to dog and cat to cat, but my dogs absolutely need like us to be around, you know, especially, I mean, Zazie and I, we've been together for 5 years now, you know, from the beginning of her life until now. There's not a day that like I don't think about her and I don't want to be around her. Like, we're both so connected at this point. And it goes both ways. Like, I wish I didn't feel so connected to her sometimes, and I wish that she could do better without me sometimes, but I don't know. It's almost like, I mean, that's just how dogs are in a way. You know, they're like bred to be our best friends, and they're bred to be loyal and caring and like wait on us essentially almost.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we have a little, I can go up to my dog and ask her to sit, and she'll just do it without even anything. Like, and she'll give me her paw. She'll do all these things. Even if I don't have a treat, she still just does it just because she's like, oh yeah, oh, okay, that sounds fine, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of astounding to me because it's just that level of loyalty and that's why I wanted a dog too, because I've never had that in my life. Like, when I was in my last relationship, it wasn't a very loving relationship. So to have a dog that loved me unconditionally was awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And like to kind of replace that or to fill that hole that I had with like this dog who just was like the sweetest thing in the world and like wanted to be around me and I can do anything at any point. If I want to go for a walk, she wants to come with me. If I want to go to the beach, she wants to come with me. If I want to just drive around, she wants to come with me. Like, no matter what I'm doing, she wants to hang out with me. And that's awesome because I've never had anyone that wants to do that. So like,
yeah, I can see that appeal.
Yeah. Just whatever you want to do. They're just down for it all the time, and they're excited too. They're not like bummed about it, or they're not passive aggressive. They're just ready to hang out all the time. And that can be that sounds a little selfish too, because I'm sure Zazie wants to do other things sometimes. You know, maybe I'm tired and I want to take a nap, and Zazie wants to play, but I'm really tired. So then it's like, no matter what I want to do, you know, like I want to do this, so we do it. So I try to keep her in mind as much as I can, as far as like, oh, you'd like to play more outside, let's go do that, you know, because her life revolves around me and I revolve around her in a way, but not as much as she revolves around me, you know. That's
one of the reasons I feel so bad for dogs, though, is because they're so obedient.
Yes.
And it's almost like they're slaves.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it. I mean, also, you can't lock a kid in your house alone for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
But dogs, especially when people work regular hours at work, like they have that happen to them all the time.
And I'm sure it has no less of a psychologically damaging effect on dogs than it would on a human kid.
Right. I mean, dogs get extreme severe anxiety from being left behind.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you know is your person. And then all of a sudden they're gone for 8 hours and you just have nothing to do. And you're locked in a house, like, with no way to communicate either. That's got to be traumatizing at times. I mean, I think that's why the other dog is so... I mean, he hates when we leave. He has very bad separation anxiety. He also only trusts me and my partner. So it's like, we're the only people he has, and he's very attached to us because of that too. So it's kind of sad because he's been hurt a lot in his past. So.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like with that, because from a dog's perspective, I mean, it probably seems like your 8 hours of leaving, if you're going to work or whatever, seems like a punishment, or like you don't love them.
Yeah.
So it could be like the experience of having like a bipolar mother or older brother who you can't, trust their feelings towards you, because one moment they love you and the next moment they seem to hate you.
Yeah. With dogs, you have to like train that out of them essentially. Yeah. Like when Zazie was little, I had her crate trained, so she would sleep in a crate at night just for her safety, so she wouldn't eat things essentially. So she would sleep in a crate at night, and then when I would go to work, she would be in a crate. I also worked at a dog daycare for a while when I first got her, so she would come to work with me, which helped with her socialization. But I would just put her in the crate with, a treat or a bone or like a Kong with peanut butter in it for 15 or 20 minutes at a time, just for no reason. Just put her in there, let her hang out, and then just let her out and not make a big deal out of it. Just let her out and walk away. And that kind of desensitized her to being in the crate. And then same with me leaving, I would just leave for like 5 minutes. The house becomes the crate. Yeah, exactly. I would leave for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then just come back and not be like, oh my God, you did such a good job, blah, 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 and like rub her and stuff like that. I would just walk in and walk out like it was nothing. And her and I have a very secure attachment because of that. But Kaiju, the other dog, every time we leave, he cries and cries because he's never had a secure attachment in his life. And we've only had him for, 6 or 7 months. So we're still building that trust with him. But he's 4, so he's had 4 years of mistrust and people abusing him and people leaving him and people like hitting him if he doesn't listen. And like, that doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
I mean, dogs are complex, compassionate creatures, and the things we do to them affect them like forever sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of responsibility. As much as we get from them, it's like we have to really make sure we're doing as much for them as they do for us.
I don't know. Still, I mean, I feel like owning a dog could be good, but I don't know if I can get past just how sad they always look. Even when they're happy, they still look sad to me.
I don't think they look
just
sad
like
all the time.
Their eyes, they just look like there's a deep hidden sadness that they can't escape.
Like their people souls like stuck in there and they're like, help me.
Yes. Yeah, something
they're
like
like trying to tell you. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's sad too.
So yeah, another topic that I mentioned we would talk about in the beginning of this is fear.
Mm-hmm. For me, well, I think for a lot of people, fear has been an overarching thing in my life that's always like controlled a lot of me. I grew up in a very toxic household that I didn't know was toxic until I got a little older. And like, you look back on things. That's
a good point. You can't really know it's toxic while it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when it was happening, I was like, I love my family and like, this is fine, and I just kind of pretended to be happy. But when I look back, I mean, my dad, I haven't talked to my dad in many years at this point. He is an abusive alcoholic person who like beat my mom and like yelled at his children constantly and cheated on my mom and was just he's literally such a bad person, like, which I kind of feel bad saying that because I know deep down he's probably fine. He just has some wounds that are hurting him and make him act a certain way.
Hurt people.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. And he's very hurt, and I know that, and like that pains me to know that he's hurt. But there's that, and then my mom had to deal with that, and she had to raise 4 children. So my mom was, she was working really hard, and she was somewhat vacant at times because she was not only healing her own wounds, she was also trying to raise 4 kids, which is, how do you do that, And then amidst that, we ended up losing the house that we were living in due to foreclosure because my mom was a single mother, and how can you support 4 children and like pay a house payment on a huge house that we had?
Yeah.
So it was there was a lot of fear because I knew that when my dad came home, it was either going to be really good or really bad. And if it was really bad, it was going to be terrifying because he would...
Like came home each day? Or
well, he would leave. He would leave for a long time and then just show up again. So I knew if he came home and he was like in a bad mood, or if he decided to fight with my mom, or if he was going to drink a bunch, then it was going to be a really scary time.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid and just being so afraid of him and being afraid that my mom was going to get really hurt or that he was going to hurt my siblings. And I would have like nightmares of him, And then as I got older, I
got really depressed when I started to realize like the things that had happened and the things that were just a reality, you know, that had just occurred, you know. So for a while in my life, from like age, backtrack a little bit. When I was 15, I was in a relationship with someone who was 18, who was a lot older than me.
Yeah.
And that's not cool. I don't know why that happened. And that person was in the military, and they left, like after high school, they got deployed, or they were on basic training or something. And I was always afraid that they were going to get hurt, or that they were just going to leave me, because I had never been in a long distance relationship. And also I was like 16 at this point, and I didn't understand anything. So I was always afraid that was going to happen. And then after we broke up, I kind of just lost it for a bit. You know, I was spending all this time being afraid of everything, and I just stopped being afraid of everything for a little while, and I started drinking a lot, and I started experimenting with drugs, and I started just not giving a shit what happened to me. You know, that's when I would leave for weeks at a time. I didn't ever go to school. I would just...
What caused that switch? Was it a decision?
No, it was because that person and I broke up. And
so like it was just a thing that happened because of that?
Yeah.
That you didn't really do on purpose?
Right. I was devastated when we broke up. He broke up with me. He was the first person that I ever thought I really loved and cared about. And I was codependent for sure. Like it wasn't a healthy relationship, which I was fucking 15. Of course it wasn't a healthy relationship, you know, like I didn't know anything, and I feel like I still don't know things, you know. Yeah, after he broke up with me, and I was just like so sad, you know, and I was like, I thought we were going to get married and all these like silly things. And like, yeah, I just started doing all these reckless things. Like, and like I could have gotten really hurt a lot of the time, and I was gone a lot of the time. I could have failed high school. I don't even know how I managed to scrape by, because I was truant every year, you know, like I would go to art class and then just leave like first and second hour, and then I would just walk out and just have some sob story like, oh, I was sad so I left or whatever. And luckily I got through that. But like, what was I like, why? You know, I was so afraid, and then I had no fear at all. And then as soon as, I mean, there's been a lot of things to contribute to this, but like once I kind of got through that phase in my life, I looked back on all the things I had been doing, and I was scared for like my past self, you know. I was like, holy shit, like what, like why? What did I just do? You know, I'd been waking up in strangers' houses. I'd been like experimenting with drugs that I didn't even know what they were. Like I'd been hanging out with people that I had just met, and like, you know, just doing things that I could have gotten murdered. I could have gotten raped. I could have gotten, just anything could have happened to me. I could have, I mean, like even just driving under the influence or intoxicated, like that was the dumbest shit. Like, why did I do that? It's because I didn't care about myself at all. Like I was suicidal. I was depressed, and like I had no fear of death, and I just was stupid and a maniac. And then as soon as I started caring about myself again and starting to like try to heal myself, I started becoming scared of things again. Like I started to, especially once my current partner and I got together, I started having this family dynamic that I talked about before, and I started really caring that I was alive. Like I wanted to live, and I wanted to like make sure I was here for my dog and here for my partner, and like for myself too. And I think that really started to be put in motion, like yes, when Casey and I started dating, but also when my friend passed away, because I hadn't been the best friend to her, you know, like after high school ended, we lost touch a little bit, and I didn't really, like I didn't reply to her sometimes, you know, and I didn't like make plans with her, and, you know, she would reach out to me and I would just kind of ghost her or like not reply for a super long time, or just flake out, you know, and be like, oh, I don't feel like it. And then, you know, she was the only person who was really nice to me in school, and she's fucking dead. And like I didn't get a chance to tell her like how much I care about her. And like right before she died, we had made plans to finally get together after not seeing each other for years. And I just didn't get to do that. And that idea started scaring me, that I could lose people at any moment, you know, and that like I wasn't
the thing that scared me too is that I wasn't being as good as I wanted to be. And like I wasn't being as good of a human as I had hoped I was going to be. And I really let myself down, and I let one of my friends down because I should have spent more time with her. You know, she was a really positive influence in my life, and I should have spent more time with her. But obviously I can't change that. And now that I'm semi-okay most of the time, which is such a bright outlook, I am afraid that, you know, I'm afraid of like falling back into something like that. And sometimes I'm afraid to, I mean, honestly, I'm afraid to just walk outside sometimes because I'm like, I don't know, is some dude just gonna like yell at me? Like, I just like to avoid situations like that. So sometimes I don't even want to take a walk with the dogs because I'm afraid that someone's gonna like say something to me, and then I'm gonna say fuck off, and then they're gonna like shoot me or like come out and just beat me up or something, you know? Like, I don't know. I'm afraid a lot. And like, that's something that I've been trying to grapple with a lot lately. Just that I don't want to be afraid of everything. Yeah. And I just want to do things. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier too, is just doing things. But like, it's more than that for me sometimes, you know? It's like, there's more deep inside of me that I need to like dig out and like excavate and just throw away or something. Because I'm afraid on a very deep level of most things, which I hate.
Yeah. You gotta like find a balance of self-care and lack of fear, or at least a, I don't know, desirable amount of fear.
Yeah, like a healthy amount of fear where you don't like walk to the edge of a cliff, but you also can take a walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially because I don't want to live life like this. I'm doing well in a lot of aspects, but that's something that I've definitely just had a hard time with lately.
Yeah. Is there a connecting factor to all of your fears? Is it like a fear of death, or is it a fear of losing other people? Or is it like just various fears that aren't really connected?
I mean, I'm sure they're connected in some way. Yeah. But I think like, honestly, as like fucked up as it sounds, I'm not that afraid of dying. Like, I don't care, but I don't like worry about it. Yeah. Like, I'm more afraid of, you know, like if something happened to my partner or something happened to my dogs. I guess it's losing people for the most part. I've lost a lot of people in my life. And that's something that I struggle with too, is just loss. Is like, I've lost my friend that I've mentioned a few times. And then there's someone else in my life who had a very like tragic, violent death, she was literally murdered when I had just graduated high school. And then I lost someone very close to me when I was in middle school. And then I lost my dad, you know, he's not dead, but he's just gone. And then I in some ways, I feel like I've lost my mom a lot because she's moved away and she doesn't really reach out to me that often. Same with two of my siblings. I only keep in contact really with one of my siblings. And then breaking up with my ex, we were really close friends for so long. And then unfortunately, when you break up with someone, when you were engaged, they don't usually want to be your friend. Yeah. So he doesn't want to be my friend. And like, I totally understand that. But I also just care about people and I want to make sure that people are okay. So I kind of want to be like, hey, how you doing? But he doesn't want to hear from me. And that's fine. I totally get that. But it's hard to have a lot of loss in your life and then try to just like not be afraid of things. Because if I lost my dog, that's like my worst nightmare is my dog runs away, you know? Like, I imagine one of my worst fears is that my dog runs away and I just never find her. Ever. Like, I never find her body, like, dead, or I just never find her at all. Because the feeling of not knowing would, like, tear me apart and, like, drive me nuts.
You could always put, like, an implant in her.
I've thought about that. Tracker. Yeah. I mean, they have microchips, but you have to, like, scan them. I've thought about, though, getting a collar that has a GPS tracker. Just insert a chip into her. A little TomTom GPS. And plug her in like a USB cord.
Well, I think, isn't that a thing? Like, you can actually insert the microchips underneath the skin?
Yeah. And then they, like, get scanned at, like, a vet, and it says who owns it. Kaiju has one, my other dog. Oh, yeah. Which is weird. You, like, scan the dog, and it says, I belong to this person. Yeah. It's, like, a very strange concept. Imagine if people had that, too. You know, like, emergency contact, just, like, scan my arm, and it just, like, gives you their phone number. It's really weird. But... yes, fear and loss, difficult things that I've grappled with.
The past few days I've been thinking about how odd and bizarre it is that humans are typically so afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you weren't asked to be put here. You weren't expecting to be put here. You just ended up alive.
Yeah, which I honestly wished I didn't a lot of the time, because I didn't ask for this. Like, who decided that it was a good idea for me to just be born?
Yeah.
Like, no thank you.
You just come into existence, and like you cling so hard to it for some reason.
It's the only thing you have, really, is life. You don't have anything else for sure.
Yeah.
And then one day you just die. I think because I went through so much and I've lost so many people, it sounds harsh to be like, I don't care if I die, but I mean, obviously I prefer living. I think. I don't really know, I guess, because I've never tried death, but like
I don't think you can prefer, you know?
I know, it just is.
Right?
It just kind of exists, but I'm okay with the idea of death at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not terrified of it, and I don't even think about it often as a thing. It's just like, if I were to get, crushed in a car tomorrow, I'm sure it'd be scary in the moment, but I think people, I can't know how I would feel because I'd be dead, but other people would be sad. My loved ones would be really sad, but I wouldn't be sad, if that makes sense.
You can't be sad.
I can't be sad, but also, like, if I saw myself, if I had, knew when I was going to die, and I knew how, I don't think I would be that, shook by it, as the kids say. I don't think I would be that, I don't know. It'd be interesting for sure, but I wouldn't, be like, oh fuck, now I have to dread that day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, cool, now I can plan out the rest of my life.
It might be nice in that way. Then you can stop doing things that are bullshit.
Yeah, then I can quit my job and just go live in Japan for a couple years and eat so much rice and seaweed and just
You already could.
That's true. I don't have the money, but yeah.
I mean, how would you do it then if you
plants.
find out you're gonna die if you don't have the money?
I don't know. I'd be like a Make-A-Wish kid or something. I don't know. I know when I'm gonna die, so give me money. I just make it GoFundMe. I don't know, or whatever. Or maybe I'd start doing really precarious, risky things. I'd just start selling drugs or something because I knew that I was gonna die in the future.
Walter White. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Like Breaking Bad. That turned out perfect for him. Yeah, he's fine. He died. So, spoiler alert.
Yeah. So do you think, you would say that you are ruled by fear generally, or no?
Honestly, if I'm being true with myself, I think a lot of my actions are ruled by fear, especially in a day-to-day way where if I don't, this happens at work sometimes. It would happen in my last relationship a lot, that if I don't act a certain way or if I don't say a certain thing, then there's going to be a negative consequence. And so instead, I'll do this, instead I'll be more mild-mannered, or instead I will just be agreeable instead of causing a ruckus, Yeah. Because nowadays I'm kind of I enjoy conflict sometimes, which I think I've said to you. I love telling people to put a mask on at work because I'm you need to put a mask on. Do you want to fight me about it? But I don't want to I think because when I grew up in such a chaotic household, I don't want to live in a chaotic world of my world, Yeah. I prefer things to be a bit more calm, and I just don't want people to be trying to fight with me or feud with me. I don't want to I just want to live a peaceful life at this point. I feel like an old woman. I just want to live in peace, and if that involves being more agreeable sometimes, I don't think that's a bad thing, Yeah. I don't think it's worth getting up in a fuss about things all the time, and maybe that's based out of my own fear, but maybe that's also me just being tired of chaos.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to know whether or not fear is the cause of something or just logic, because there's so many things that you can cause conflict about that if you think about it, it really doesn't matter at all.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the point I'm getting to. It's does this really matter?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
But then is that an excuse for being afraid of confrontation? I don't know.
Exactly.
Some cases maybe, but
yeah, I worry. I'm afraid of that. No, I'm just kidding. But I think about that, and that's part of the thing I've been working on, is just getting to understand and know my true self and my true motivations, because if I'm doing something based out of fear, I would like to maybe not do that. But if I'm doing something based out of let me just take care of myself and not live a chaotic lifestyle, then I think that's better. I think.
Yeah.
But I also don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either for myself how much of my actions are based in fear. I would like to think not many, but I actually don't know.
I mean, if you look also like subconscious, like you might be doing something because you're afraid of the consequence, you know, or like afraid of not having it work out.
Yeah, I am a believer in the fact that we don't know ourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
really at all.
Seriously, like, which is crazy. I'm just starting to understand who I am, like the very surface of who I am. And sometimes I like what I see and sometimes I don't, and that's fine. But I think the fact that I'm working on it is noble. Like, I have to do it or I'm just going to go nuts.
Yeah.
I don't want to be someone who's stuck at a job that I hate because I don't even know what I want at age like 50, you know? Yeah. I don't want to do that. There's a lot of pressure put on people in our like age bracket, like 22 to like, you know, 29. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have a career. You have to, all these things.
Yeah.
And that's why I dropped out of school, because I hated it. And I realized like this isn't the right thing for me. And I already had my degree in what I want to do. And why am I trying to push myself to do more when I don't need to do more, like right now? And I'm fine. Like, I'm okay just existing and trying to understand myself better and like improving myself on a daily basis. And sometimes I suck, but other times I don't. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with actually a lot. And I think probably most people do. That I feel like as a culture or generation probably need to be able to come to terms with just being okay with just existing.
Yeah.
And not like needing to always be like trying to become quote unquote successful or like push yourself or like the rise and grind.
Right. Yeah. Like people
lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree. Like people work themselves to death. Like, and I mean in Japan it's like a real thing too.
Yeah, literally to death.
Like, yeah, people die from like overworking, which is really fucked up. But I want to spend time with my dogs. I want to spend time with my partner. I want to be able to travel. I want to like do things, and I don't want to have to revolve my life around work.
Yeah.
That sucks. That's stupid. And like, I spend so much time on my plants every week, but it's not work to me. It's something I truly enjoy. And like, I would do that over most things pretty much always. Like, it's therapeutic and I love it. It's what I want to do. So I'm trying to hopefully, you know, find a place for me that I can work that in as like a daily part of my life and hopefully get paid for it. That'd be awesome. But I'm also like fine keeping them separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the whole rise and grind culture of just like, if you're not waking up at 6 a.m. and working out at the gym for 2 hours and then
monetize every moment of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, taking a couple Instagram selfies of you in the gym and then go to work and then stay late because your boss asked you to, and then you haven't eaten anything all day and like all these things. It's like, that's not, it's not healthy. It's not okay. That's not what we're supposed to do as humans. Yeah. We're supposed to work and like tinker around with things and like experiment, but not like that. I don't think.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, I don't know, it's on some level, I feel very like pressured by myself maybe, or maybe even by outside forces to like become successful in a way where I can be my own like boss and control my own time.
Yeah.
So I'm not really motivated by like clock in, clock out work or like career like that.
Right.
But I do really want to try and find some way to like sustain myself. And that is exactly what this podcast is.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like this podcast is kind of evidence of the fact that I am maybe not comfortable enough with just existing.
Yeah.
Rather than always trying to like do something.
Right. I mean, doing this podcast is definitely doing more than a lot of people even want to try to do. You know, it's easier to just go to work and clock in, clock out, and then just sit at home and watch TV. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like it could be a bad thing, but I feel like also at the same time, like, maybe we should just accept that. Like,
accept that?
I mean, just like enjoy your life as it is, you know? It's like.
Yeah. But only if it's what you want.
Yeah.
If what you want is to clock in, clock out, and then like hang out, cool, do that. But I don't want that.
Yeah. But then it's like how much of what we want is shaped by other people or by culture, like how much is like the culture we live in making us want like to do the rise and grind kind of lifestyle, like and push ourselves harder than we need to.
Yeah, and also do the alternate lifestyle, because from what I understand about you, it seems like both of us have always kind of been
on the outside of things and kind of been a little like strange, you know? And so for me, I see people who I don't relate with at all, people I went to high school with and stuff like that, going to like be engineers and like working that, you know, really, you know, clock in, clock out, work long hours type thing. And I don't relate to that at all. But then I see people who I've always connected with being artists and being musicians and like just doing personal projects and working with their hands, you know, and like being creatives and stuff like that. And I relate to that a lot more. So maybe it's part of that too. It's just that I don't relate to that type of person.
Yeah.
And, you know, type A, type B, whatever. But I'm very hardworking at the same time. So it's like, I don't know. The synopsis is that we don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's as good as a place as any to wrap up this episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
Although I'd like to know, for our listeners, do you have any sort of recommendations for them to do? Maybe a favorite book?
Ooh.
Or song or artist?
I wish I had prepared better for this.
Whatever comes to mind.
Well, we were listening to Snail Mail today.
Yes.
And I do love Snail Mail. I'm also a huge fan of Beach House.
Beach House.
Pretty much every album. I've been listening to Fleet Foxes a lot because that's a good like fall winter theme. Other than that, I really enjoy the book Prey by, I think you pronounce his last name Crichton or Crichton? Michael Crichton? Crichton? I don't know. He wrote Jurassic Park, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is a book?
I think so.
Oh.
Unless someone just told me that and I've just held on to that wrong knowledge for a long time. But it's like a sci-fi novel.
Is it Prey with an E or A?
E.
Oh, okay.
Definitely E. It's about like nanotechnology going into people's blood and like then like gaining sentience. It's really cool.
Okay.
It's very interesting. That's like my all-time favorite book. I've read it like 15 times probably.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Nice.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me. It was a fun time.
It was.
I do like talking to people. So that kind of makes this less work and more just like
chatting,
a passion project.
Chatting with some pals.